Talk Radio, you're in to all things music. Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome to Making It with me, your host, Terry Woolman. I really appreciate you joining us each week, and I wanted to let you know that you can find all of our episodes on entertalkmedia.com, Spotify, and iTunes podcast at Making It with Terry Woolman. I created this show to focus on what it takes to have a lasting career in the ever-changing landscape of the music and performance business. So, my guest today is a really interesting guy, and I had the pleasure of performing with him recently at a Stephen Schwartz tribute. And let me tell you about him. Isaiah Johnson has appeared on and off Broadway, working with Al Pacino and Daniel Sullivan in The Merchant of Venice, Kevin Spacey and Sam Mendes in Richard III, Kelly O'Hara and Michael Greif in Far From Heaven, Roger Rees and Alex Timbers in Peter and the Starcatcher, Lin-Manuel Miranda and Thomas Kail in Hamilton, the Lab production, and on various projects with Norm Lewis, Bill Condon, and Randy Newman. He has also been a guest star on CBS's Person of Interest and the Cinemax series The Nick. Isaiah received a BFA from Howard University and an MFA from NYU's Tisch Grad Acting. Isaiah Johnson, welcome to Making It.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and I know it's a show day, so thanks for making the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things is that I already know about you from our recent new friendship is that you know how to multitask well. I mean, you've got a family, you've got a full-time acting gig in Hamilton. Right now you're in the San Francisco touring company, and you are also, that's not all you do. You're still being creative. You're preparing for some singing performances. And I know you got 20 other things going on that we will talk about that we haven't even talked about yet. But I'm curious, before I just jump into the Hamilton story and everything else, where did you learn your focus? Was it something you were born with? Was it something that your parents instilled in you? Did you learn it at Howard? You seem to be really good at just being very present with whatever's going on at the moment.
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, cool. No, man, I think it was definitely taught. My parents are both from the old school. And, they, both of them being kind of military folks and being from the old school. And, I think I learned that type of work ethic from them. They always taught me, if you're going to do something, do your best. And if you're going to do something for someone else, do it thoroughly. And so I think that whole kind of mentality about just doing what needs to be done is definitely taught by my folks. And I think that's probably a cultural distinction, amongst many African Americans. It's my coming on, somewhat privileged background, coming from folks who definitely had to, as the terrible saying goes, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Mm-hmm. So that comes with a particular work ethic.
Sure.
That was taught to them, that they thought it best to teach it to their kids. And I'm so glad that they did, because I definitely noticed amongst my peers growing up in the industry, there was definitely a big difference between kind of what I instinctually knew was right, you know, in terms of how to go about doing this thing, and some of their allowances for kind of their emotional life to kind of get the better of what needed to be done. Right. And I think I'm so glad that I had the teaching that I did, you know, because it helped me just kind of stay focused on the work, and it helped me better separate things that I could control from things that I couldn't. It helped me separate, you know, what I felt like was my artistic contribution and what I needed to do to just be a good damn team player with a bunch of creatives in one room trying to accomplish one goal.
Mm-hmm. You know, one of the things that I do know about your family, besides them being in the military, so you had the discipline was built into your family structure, but you also got a lot of love and support and encouragement artistically.
Definitely,
which is pretty cool, because, you know, I know other military kids. I mean, you know, you're a grown ass man, but you know, having grown up, you know, in a military family, the arts, you know, the discipline was a focus. We had discipline in my family. My dad was a teacher, you know, phys ed teacher, and he had been in the Army like all our parents were, you know, but I didn't really quite get the same amount of artistic nurturing that you apparently got in your family, and that you have, you know, mentioned to me before. And where did they get that from? Like, who taught them the importance of culture and art?
Well, they were both. Well, honestly, I think the military did. You know, their exposure to the arts and culture through the military is really what kind of gave them that foundation. That said, they are also both musicians, not by profession, but by experience and trade. They both played the piano. Nice. My father played piano and sax, and my mother plays the piano, and they both sing. And so I grew up watching them, you know, sing together in church and for various functions. They were a musical couple, you know what I mean? And so we always had music in the house. And so music and the arts were always encouraged. I don't think that theater was something that they were exposed to until they became independent adults in the military, being able to travel around. They both spent a lot of time in Europe, you know, soaking in that artistic culture. And I think both of them being artists, you know, where it might not have been as encouraged in their immediate family growing up. But that's only because the church was the main place where you expressed your art. Everything else was kind of a sin. So, right. You know what I mean? So I think, so that's where they honed their particular craft. And I think they probably never made it to the realm of considering themselves as artists as I do now. That's where my kind of being spoiled allows me to think of myself as an artist.
Yeah. Well, why do you hesitate to think of yourself as an artist? I see you as an artist because you have an artist soul.
No, absolutely. I think my hesitation was from considering myself spoiled. That's the hesitation. Yeah, I definitely don't hesitate, you know, calling myself an artist. I'm fully I have given over to the thing. But yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of us in this country, you know, I won't say a lot of us. I'll say like kind of the dominant voice that we always hear in the country, which is represented by a lot of people who live in kind of the major cities, who are exposed to diversity, who are exposed to the arts, who are exposed to like all of the cutting edge cultural aspects of what it means to be American. I think that we all could definitely own up to being a little bit spoiled, rightly so, because our parents wanted to provide us with a better life than they had. And I think that's given us a lot of concession to kind of say, hey, no, I'm an artist. I'm not just this, or I'm not just that, you know. And I think we're at like the flower is budding right now for for that reality to be commonplace, to say that I am not one thing, I am all things, or I am whatever it is I want to be. Or that wasn't always understood and accepted.
Right. And you have a unique perspective because some of it, are basically you're African-American, you grew up in a military family, but you've traveled your whole life. I mean, you, as a kid, I know you spent the first 3 years of your life living in Korea. And then, I know you also ended up in Alaska. I don't know all the other places that you've been, but you've been a moving target for a long time, which has exposed you to what you're talking about. The understanding that there is a privilege to living in a country where we can, for better or worse, express ourselves freely. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely, without a doubt.
And that's really important, although sometimes it feels for the worse. There seems to be sort of a carte blanche for hatred and bigotry again in our country.
Shit, man. Curtis Mayfield said it best. He said, freedom's never been free.
Right.
Freedom has never been free. And I think that's true. It's like we endeavor to create the kind of freedoms that were kind of first made public, at least in writing by our forefathers. I think that the desire for freedom is an inherent right. But when you're trying to create a society of people who have to live together, and we have to have a common goal if we are going to live together. And, if we're going to create that kind of society, then how free can freedom be? You know what I mean? Or I guess the better question is, what is freedom without discipline? Can you have freedom without discipline? And if you can't, who's responsible for doling out that discipline? Do you know what I'm saying?
I did. Those are some good questions.
It's real. It's like the great unanswerable question.
Yeah. So, where else did you live? Where'd you go when you were 4?
Well, I came back to the States, and we lived in South Carolina with my father's family, and then we spent some time in Houston, Texas. I spent my childhood summers in Houston, Texas, and we kind of were stationed in Blytheville, Arkansas. I spent some time in Memphis, Tennessee, while my father was in law school, and then Shreveport, Louisiana. We were there for a long time before settling in Alaska.
And when you were in Alaska, the thing that surprised me, and I've been to Alaska, and it's exquisitely beautiful. I didn't expect that there would be a lot of culture there, but you were exposed to some great, world-renowned artists came to perform in your community. You saw a lot of people coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely saw a lot of people coming up, man, and Alaska's that place where a lot of artists stop through, because I think the state will pay for them to come, you know what I mean? Right. And so I think everybody's come there at least once. If Snoop Dogg can say, and he's been several times, Snoop Dogg, who I'm sure has no interest in spending too much time in the cold, he definitely came to Alaska. He's been several times, so I think, it would. So once again, I have to give honor to my parents. Like, thank you to my parents that they were able to kind of take that information and, because of their exposure, say, hey, by the way, if you are interested in this, there is a bigger world out there, much bigger world than Anchorage, Alaska, that will support your dreams. But you have to work at it. You have to make sure that you know what the hell you're doing because there's a lot of competition out there. And you got to make sure you have something else to fall back on. So find another interest that you can kind of lean on. So for me, that was education. As your father was a teacher, my father was a teacher and a counselor as well. And both of my folks share that background in education.
That really helps mold us when we're younger to understand the importance of education and that's part of the essence of this show, even, the mentoring aspect of that, which I know, is something, I mean, you've taught along with your whole career as well, which kind of goes with the program.
Yeah.
Let's jump into Hamilton for a moment and then not spend the whole hour on that. But two questions. One is just like a fanboy question, which is you are currently performing in Hamilton in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So my question is it as amazing to be in as it is to watch as an audience member?
You know what? That is a great question. And I would say that, I think it depends on who you ask that's in it. For me, yes. For me, what I get out of it is obviously I get a lot out of it, seeing as how I've been a part of it since 2014. And I keep coming back because it's a type of production that makes everyone who works on it better if they're interested in that.
Right.
You gotta be interested in being better.
I for some reason I would expect that the people that would rise to the level of being in a play like that would be self-aware enough that they would all want to be continuing to grow as artists, but perhaps that's not true. People get comfortable.
People get comfortable, but there's a lot of talented people in the world. Just because someone's talented doesn't mean that, like we said before, the work ethic comes with it.
Right.
Absolutely. Like a lot of people, they book a lot of great jobs from their talent, but they don't necessarily have the work ethic to grow in that. You know what I mean? And it's very evident when we meet a lot of senior citizens. When we meet a lot of senior citizens in my community who are, bitter, we meet them all the time.
Right. Yeah.
They're bitter. They have a lot of stories that are bitter. And, we're like, damn, man, you've been in the game for a long time. How did you come out with so much negativity? Like, did you not get what you intended to get?
Right. Where's
from
the
this?
Gratitude? Yeah.
Where's the gratitude? In the sense where essentially what we do is an act of service. And
say that again, because I agree.
What we do is an act of service, yet we get paid for it. And now, more so than ever, we get paid really, really well because of the activeness of our union.
Right.
Because of the activeness of our union, has made it so that all of us can have a decent living if we do work enough.
Right.
So.
By the way, I hear, I think your daughter in the background. I know you've got a son and a daughter, and
that's right.
That's all, and it's okay. I just wanted to acknowledge that if anybody's wondering, you're a dad.
Nobody's wondering. Yes, audience base. Yes. Well, you can't help it. There's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
Right. And they have to talk. They have to talk when you talk. Most importantly. So, I don't mind if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So let me ask you the second Hamilton question, which is, this has to do with making yourself available for opportunity, being open to opportunity. Could you share your story of how you ended up joining the cast?
Yes, absolutely. So back in 2014, they were getting ready they had done a few public readings, one of which I was able to be close to up at the New York Stage and Film Workshop. And this lab production they did right before they went to the public theater, where they put the show on its feet with choreography and costumes and, blocking and a few set pieces. It's kind of like the closest thing we got to what we see today. And I was fortunately able to do that production. And so the guy who it's downstairs on that couch. So the guy who ultimately did that part, Chris Jackson, he had done all of the readings before. Him and Lynn are friends, and he's insanely he is the Washington that you want if you're gonna need a Washington, right? But he was stuck in a contract that he couldn't get out of at the time. And so they kind of needed somebody to come and, and play Washington during this lab production while he was otherwise engaged. And so obviously you cannot tell someone that when they're auditioning, but I think it was, genuinely understood, right? So I did this lab production with the original company. It was insane. It was amazing. The chemistry between all of us was great because they're amazing people. They've gone on, obviously, to do so many other amazing things. I guess while we're on this subject, I would love to shout out Brother Ephraim Sykes, who has been nominated for a Tony for his work in the Temptations musical Ain't Too Proud.
Yes.
He was an original Hamilton member as a dancer, actor, singer. Obviously, he has the full triple threat at his disposal.
I was thinking about you when we were watching the Tonys the other night because we have lots of theater friends and Broadway friends, but I was thinking particularly of you and knowing that these are some of your peers that were up there being honored and does that just fill your heart? You know, what was it? What is it like emotionally for you to watch that?
Oh man, you know what? I actually didn't get a chance.
Oh, you were working.
I didn't get a chance to watch it. No, because I had guests come to the show, and they lived out where I lived, and so I needed to like bring them home and kind of get with the family. So we're kind of YouTube stuff if we still have the desire to watch it, because trying to watch something live. Trying to watch something live is like damn near impossible. But I had a lot of close friends who were nominated, and so I am really excited to watch it. And I felt like this particular season, I'll just say for the record, this is the type of season that I like to see. This is the diversity that I believe we're really asking for when we say we want more diversity. It's not just about race or ethnicity. It's actually about the fact that who was nominated this year is a combination of, regular seasoned artists who have been contributing so much to our artistic community in New York and abroad, but they just haven't been at the forefront of the story. So nobody cared to know who they were. See what I'm saying?
I did.
These are the people that are nominated now. And that's what brings my heart joy. So it's just about, and we have our seasoned veterans who always come out and kill it in everything that they do. They're still represented. We have people who, musical directors, Jason Michael Webb, who obviously anybody who's worked with him knows that he's amazing, but you have to sit back and do a little bit of more research and realize the contributions that he's making to the community. And you got to give credit where credit is due. Right. Amber Renee Gray, who I went to grad school with, who is, the queen of downtown New York theater. You know what I mean? Like how she keeps a roof over her head is a pure 100% hustle. But she's always worked with people who she trusts. She always works with people who allow her to be artistically free and not be confined to some exterior mold of what other people want her to be. And, she has done some amazing work. And so finally she's getting recognized for that.
And so are you. You're getting recognition that
absolutely. But I think for me, it's not about the award. It's just about
the work, the opportunity.
It's about the work, and it's about the fact that if this award, if it means what we say it means, which is the acknowledgement and the recognition by your peers of your contributions to our community, if it is that, then, that's what it should be. And this year, I think this is a wonderful example as to how diverse that
absolutely
that pool of talent is. And I'm so excited. And I only pray and hope against hope that we see this on a regular basis. This shouldn't be a one-off. This should be a part of what is actually planned, by producers, by the Broadway League, by those who decide what shows go in which theaters. Like, this is what we should be striving for each and every time, because this represents what New York provides to the entertainment industry. Not, it's different than what Hollywood provides. It's different than what TV provides. This is what New York provides.
Absolutely. Hey, I want to circle back to education because you just mentioned Howard University. We've had a few Howard University graduates on our show. And these are people that I already knew were really kind of pretty fully formed humans, not just artistically, but they're, very smart people that go there and come out of there. And so I know that you have clearly been surrounded by greatness, certainly when you were at school and in your work experiences. Do you have any standout special memories or stories from your college experience? You know, any profound things that just really created a shift for you?
Honestly, the people that we were taught by, you know, I was fortunate enough to be, you know, a part of some of the last classes, incoming freshmen, to be taught by kind of the legends of Black Broadway, you know, Michael Malone, Henrietta Edmonds, whose father was a famous playwright, Al Freeman Jr., who was an incredible triple threat for years, you know. Just so many great people who kind of instilled in us the work ethic that it took for them to succeed for as long as they did on Broadway. Reggie Ray, a costume designer, you know what I mean? Like, just like, and so I was able to get taught by these folks. So when I came out of Howard, I felt prepared to either work or continue on to grad school, or, you know, I kind of felt prepared for anything. It doesn't mean that the pedagogy was perfect, but that's not what it's about. Right. It's about giving you enough to go forward. And I definitely got that.
So what inspires you in music, in acting, and in life?
Honestly, people, man. If I really were to break it down, I would just say it's people. It's people. It's people's stories. I actually do love people. I mean, I definitely love my me time. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not the one to go to the party with the biggest population. Like, I'm kind of a recluse, and I'm a terrible schmoozer. Whenever we go to opening night parties, I'm always like off in a corner with one brand new strange person, just getting the full life story. You know, meanwhile, like, all of the famous people who were trying to meet you and, you know, expecting you to come meet them. Like, I'm like, nope, didn't see that person. Nope, didn't know they were there. Nope. But I did meet Ed, the janitor, and he has 3 kids who he's put through college, working 3 blue-collar jobs. Like, I could break his whole life down. That's why I do it what I do. You know what I mean? And I think I do it to tell those stories, and I do it with those people in mind. When I'm on stage, I'm thinking about, man, I wonder who's out in the audience. I wonder what aspects of people's personal lives are kind of gelling with this story that we're telling. That, and I have, like I said before, given over to the artistry. And so honestly, man, this shit is my sanctuary. It's my church. It's the place where I can heal myself within myself. And I need it. You know what I mean? I need it. Like, even if I didn't do this full time, I would still make my way back to it, or continue to do it on the side in some way. It's just the way that I choose to express myself in the world.
Yeah, I want to like dig in with you. And this is based on our first conversation that we had off to the side of the stage after we ran your tune, you know, when we first met. We just started talking about the creative process, intention, soul, defining soul, and bringing spirituality into your work. And I want to hear what you have to say about all of those things. But let's start with process. What is your process the moment right before you walk out on stage?
You know what, man? I hold my breath. I do exactly what people tell you not to do.
Right.
I do hold my breath. Like, I take a really deep breath, and right at the top, I hold it. I hold my breath. It relaxes my brain. It puts oxygen in my lungs, which will help my breath control. And then I let it go and go on and do the thing.
You fill the tank.
I fill the tank. I do that, and I also find a coworker to fuck with.
And you
truly,
switch it up.
I am the one who, when you're trying to come have a really focused show, I'm the dude in the wings telling you some stuff that you just don't need to hear right before you do your thing. but it makes me comfortable. It brings a smile to their faces. So I'm assuming, I leave room for anybody who doesn't want me to do that to tell me.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's a combination of like deep preparation and incredible stupidity and playfulness.
Right.
You need that combination to do anything artistic. You have to have it.
Right. Well, it's not a reflection of your lack of discipline or focus. So it's an augmentation of those things. It's just
what I've learned to be the most exciting for me artistically. Like I like to see artists who don't take themselves so seriously that if they mess up whatever they had planned to do in the moment, there's no acknowledgement. That's just idiotic to me. Like there's a great story that people like to tell. This moment in Hamilton when I'm introducing Thomas Jefferson. And can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Where I'm introducing Thomas Jefferson in the candidate battle. And whatever intro that I was supposed to say, I completely forgot what it was. My mind just had a mini stroke. I completely lost my train of thought. And the only response that came clearly to my mind was to just tell the audience, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Thomas Jefferson, take it away. But I did it in time. He came in on his normal cue.
You didn't lose the pocket.
I didn't lose that pocket, baby. You cannot lose that pocket.
What notes did you get that night from the director?
It was just an unnotable because I let him know.
You handled your business.
Yeah. But what are you going to say, right? Like you're human and people are paying to see art being created. This is why I love theater, right? I love theater because it's art being created in your. It's like you're paying a ticket to go see Picasso sit at a stool and paint, and you get to just watch what is coming on the canvas, right? Like so.
Absolutely.
Actors can't lose, and I think so many times actors will get this deep, full preparation to present this kind of pretty well prepared package on stage, but that's not really what people are paying for. They're trusting that you've done that work, right? They're trusting that they're coming to hear a story, but how that story unfolds on that particular night has to be different than the night before. The story doesn't change, but the way it's told changes. You know what I mean? I
do. I mean, that's music. That's my world, music. Too.
Yeah,
and, you're a musician.
Art. That's right. It's art. There was a documentary once that came out. I can't remember the name of it, but it was about Picasso and how they showed they were just talking about how he would paint a picture and it would seem like this beautiful masterpiece. Then he would just start continuing to paint over that masterpiece. And then a new masterpiece would be created. And he would continue to paint over that. And then a new one. So he had 5 layers of paint with 5 masterpieces that have all just been completely augmented and changed until his soul was satisfied with what was there.
That brings me right to the next question, which is soul. What is this? What in your mind? What is the source of soul, and how do you define soulfulness?
Man, I don't know. I mean, at this time in my journey, I feel like it's truthfulness. My wife Stacy and I were just talking about that last night at date night. How how do we continue to get to a higher level of spirituality, and is there room for those of us who are choosing it to pursue it just through the lens of just being truthful to myself in any given moment, truly honest with myself in any given moment? Is there room within the religious sector for that part of the spiritual process? Because so much of, at least I'll just speak to having a Christian background. So much of what is taught about Christianity goes back to what I was saying about the way that a lot of artists prepare, which is to prepare this pretty package. And
You know what I mean? It's just like this
Yeah.
kind of finite, there's an answer for everything driven spiritual relationship with the world. And it's just not how the world works. I mean, the world is perfectly imperfect, but that is its perfection.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's this
And
beautiful movie
I really
out
love,
called
Well, Isaiah, I love that you're also defining soulfulness as being truthful. You know, because I see you as a soulful cat. You know,
I
like
feel
a soulful man.
inside. I
Right,
feel
but
soulful
I mean,
inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're truthful in your performance. You
Yeah.
know, and you're truthful in our conversations that we've had, you know, since we've met. Yeah. So, you know, I never really thought of them as being one and the same, but I see them very clearly connected. You know, by
I
you
mean, that's what
pointing
makes your soulfulness different from my soulfulness, because we all come to different truths based on what our life experience is. You know, we talked about like the difference between what the Beatles were able to communicate in their youth as artists, based on artists who they loved and responded to. You know, so they go and see Muddy Waters.
Mm-hmm.
And Muddy Waters is singing some blue notes that ain't on the keyboard.
He's singing his truth.
Muddy Waters is singing his truth. And there's nothing that you can do to replicate that.
Right.
Because it's not going to have the same vibration. So in other words,
you were out picking cotton with him.
And honestly, exactly. Yeah. And honestly, that's truth is
and
a
I mean
vibration.
that literally. Yeah.
Oh, truly, of course.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that I think truth is a vibration. You know, there's certain truths that I think I come to intellectually. There's certain truths that I think I come to through wisdom, gained through experience. But I think the only truth that can be defined as truth is it's a vibrational thing. It's kind of this unequivocal honesty that when the word is spoken, it has a deep vibration that is not foggy or gray.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I feel like our challenge is, to find that, to stand in that.
Well, and you use the word replicate, you know, like replicating Beatles, replicating Muddy Waters. Do you believe that it's possible, or your job as an artist, to replicate, or is the best that any artist can do is to duplicate and make it your own version of what you
I mean,
know,
I
what
think
you're taking in, what you're exposed to?
I think we're all replicating until that replication becomes truthful.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're all replicating until we find something within that piece of work that was already set forth before us.
Right.
We find our truth in that thing, right? Like there are no new notes. The keyboard is finite. Right. You know what I mean? So, I mean, we're all replicating something on some level artistically, which is another reason why I hate it when people take themselves too serious. It's like, man, listen, like communicate your truth, but you ain't coming up with new gold.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it ain't new gold. It's gold. It just has a different shape. You know what I mean? So I think, I mean, I think that, but that's like the journey, right? That's the process. The process is like, how do we go from something charts on a paper to sifting through our influences? When we hear those notes, we immediately go through the filter of, oh, that lick kind of sounds like this. Oh, that kind of sounds like Jimmy. Oh, that kind of sounds like, how do we, go from what's notes on the page through all of that filter to like our truth? I'll never forget this time. I was riding on the train and a really close friend of mine, Kabibi Dillon, had just passed away. And this song, Rihanna, Umbrella, was like heavy on rotation on the radio. I had the song in my playlist, and when it came up, I usually skip it because I'm like, I am tired of hearing this song. I didn't skip it for whatever reason this time. And as the song played, I'm literally on the A train weeping at this song because the lyrics took on a whole new meaning after my friend had died. I was like, oh my God, this song is like blowing my mind right now. And it hit me in a very deep and truthful place to where the whole song then makes sense. The kind of like, army, like guttural, like chanting, you know what I mean? Like she's like, under my umbrella, Ella, Ella, eh, eh, eh. Like it's like when you sing it, you have to sing it from your womb, your will center. And there's no vibration. It's just like strong, straight tones. And I was like, damn, man, my whole spirit just broke open. I was like, oh my God, this song is incredible in this context.
Right. The word intention is an important word for you. Could you tell me what that means to you?
I mean, that's all you have, right? I had a guy that I worked with when I was a night auditor at the Hotel Helix in Washington, D.C. His name was Kevin. What
does a night auditor do?
I don't even know if I
It's the one job I think I forgot to have when I was parking cars and doing all the crazy things we've all done.
Exactly. Yeah. So the night auditor, like if you've ever did a late check-in to a hotel, in other words, like if you ever checked in at midnight and there's always like one person there, that's that guy or girl. All right. They're the night auditor. They're the ones checking people in. They're the ones, printing out the hotel's database and kind of rebooting the entire hotel system. They're the ones counting the bank at midnight, that guy or girl. And that shift is a graveyard shift. It's like from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. or from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And
so back to intention. Thanks for telling me about that little side journey.
That is a side journey. I don't even know where I was going with that. Why did I even bring that up?
Well, let me just ask the question again. What is the word intention to you? You said everything.
So the guy that trained me in that job, his name was Kevin, a brother from Philadelphia. Lovely man. Love him to death. And he used to tell me all the time. He's like, man, all you got is your pride and your dignity. If you lose that, you ain't got nothing.
Yes, I know.
All you have is your pride and your dignity. If you ain't got that, you ain't got nothing. And I was like, if those words aren't true, those are true. And so for me, that's what intention is. Intention is, being truthful about what it is that you set out to do in each day and each moment. You know what I mean? Like either I want to do a good job or I don't care to do a good job.
Right.
And nobody knows what your best work is but you. And only you can be responsible for what you put out. And the only thing that you can defend at the end of the day is your intention. Doesn't mean it'll always go right. It doesn't mean you made the right decisions. But your intention is the only thing that you can communicate that is clear.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so putting that into your work, I think it definitely starts with like, what is your intention? Is your intention to do your best, or is your intention to just kind of blow through whatever this thing is? Well, what's your intention?
But I already know about you that you don't limit that to work. That's who you are as a friend. That's who you are as a husband, as a father. Your intention isn't limited to your job.
That's right. And honestly, my intentions are not always good, but I need to be aware of them. My intentions are not always good. Now, notice I did not say good intentions. I just said all you have is your intention.
Right.
But you got to know what that is, right? Like you have to know what your intentions are in order to make either good or bad or decisions that are right or wrong for you. And sometimes you don't know if they're right or wrong for you until it's all said and done. Right?
Yes.
So, like, for example, in the gig that we did with Steven Schwartz, my intention was to not have a perfect performance just because the time did not allow for that in our preparation. Right. It just wasn't going to be that. And I knew that. So that wasn't my intention. in singing this song, Father and Sons, and knowing the importance that it had to Stephen and his relationship with his own son and his relationship with his own father, my intention was to try my best to communicate the truth of my understanding of what those relationships are for me in the song.
As a father and son yourself.
As a father and son myself. That's all I could do. Like that, my intention was to let me just breathe and tap into as much honest truth within myself about my perspective of what these relationships are between father and son. He'll get that. He'll understand that. And that's why he wrote the song.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's right. Absolutely. And that's the only thing you have control over is your place in that, you know, what you bring to it.
Right, exactly. And so in the middle of the song, you know, we're singing the song. It's going well. In the third verse, you know, in the third verse, you know, the band was led to start, you know, before I started. I thought, you know, but once again, we had one rehearsal and it was like shotgun off to the races.
Right. With every artist, right.
Yeah, so it wasn't a big deal. I wasn't pressed that there was like a flub in the music. We didn't stop. People understood at that point what the song was musically and lyrically. But after that mess up, you know, we all stayed focused and the intention was met. And I felt totally, totally connected to my understanding of what those relationships were for myself, you know, and Stephen, I think it definitely resonated with him. So job done.
Job well done, because I actually, besides a little hiccup, you know, with the band, I never felt like you were flustered in any way. You were still in the story. You were still telling the story, and I was still hearing the story and responding to that as a musician. And more importantly, so was the audience. You know, they were getting the intention. Like, you know.
Absolutely. And we had a great band. You know what I mean? It wasn't like
absolutely.
Somebody was playing something that wasn't in the chord. It wasn't like that. It was just about timing. So absolutely. It was fine. It was fine. I didn't feel shit about it.
Well, it you know, it just made me like you more, you know, because you just kind of, it's like going over a little speed bump, and you still keep your eyes in the hands, you know, hands on the wheel, eyes straight ahead.
Exactly. And if there's one thing that I have not learned from just being in this business, both doing stage work and TV, is that we do not control the outcome. So it's ridiculous that we think that we have power over presenting some package, because no matter what we think we're presenting, what's being received is going to be different. You know what I mean?
I do.
You know, it's like doing Hamilton. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes. And Washington is pretty much in regularly through the whole thing, minus, say, like 3 songs. He's present on stage. And I like doing like the journalistic detailed work of creating art and telling stories. I like to if I'm going to use the quill on the Washington desk and take it out and write something, I want to make sure that I figure out a way to make time within the phrasing and the beats to like dip it in the ink and like write it on the paper. But then I want to make sure that I close the ink jar. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
Like I want to be aware that ink drips. So I don't want to just like write and sling the pen everywhere. I want to like be conscious of the fact that I could get ink on there's no ink on the stage. There's no ink in that jar. But that's what's fun for me in using my imagination, is how detailed can I get without being superfluous. Right. Now, for 2 hours and 45 minutes, I'm jacking off on how detailed I am, right? And literally, without fail, at the end of the show, if I talk to anybody, they're like, oh my God, that note you hit at the end of One Last Time. You see what I'm saying? So your whole thing comes down to one note.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
I do.
But that's the thing. Like that's
their takeaway. Right.
That's their takeaway. And you can't hate on that. Like that is what it is.
We only have about 6 minutes left in our conversation, and before I get to the closing questions, I want to ask you a question about, what you're talking about, which is, do you view being an artist as an act of service, or do you view it as a business, or is it both to you? And how do you balance them, if so?
Man, for me, I think it's an act of service. I think it's an act of service, man. And I think that, because I'm a big person in always going back to whatever was original, whatever was first, and you think about a few people telling stories after a midday hunt around the fire about what the bear did and what this warrior did who saw the bear first. Like, when you're retelling that story, that's, and then you take that and then you tell the warriors at the next village, and then the story gets expounded upon, and then it shifts. And then the next thing you know, there's a scarcity of food. And then after that, you're like, okay, well, we need to create a God to pray to give us more food, because we have no control over the fact that there's a food shortage, And so then you add this story into the ritual of the God that we then created to help us with this thing that we cannot control. And then it grows and grows from there into the festival of Dionysus, and then it grows and grows from there until, like, you know what I mean? So it's an act of service. A griot went to a village and entertained the kids for 10 minutes, and you gave him food to thank him for it.
A griot, a storyteller. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
and
I think, and a healer, and so I think it's an act of service. Now, marketing is also America's biggest export, so it has become a business. I don't hate on that at all. But for myself, to keep myself sane, I think about it in terms of being an act of service, because that will keep me from getting angry when the paycheck isn't what the last paycheck was.
Right.
Or when in 2013, when I didn't work at all, when there weren't even auditions coming down the pike. When I think about it in that way, it keeps me humble and keeps my purpose clear. And, it keeps me super appreciative of the life that I am able to live because of this work. And it keeps me honest about the fact that at any point, this could all go away. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I sure do. Absolutely.
When the economy when the economy gets really bad, who's thinking about going to the movie? You know what I mean? Like, all of it is so not obsolete. And it shifts all the time. It shifts.
Well said.
Right now, blackness is beautiful.
Yeah,
in Hollywood.
Yeah, it's a good time to be black.
It's a good time to be black in Hollywood right now. That was not always the case, and I'm sure it will change again. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Because at some point, it's going to be a good time to be Asian. I hope that comes sooner than later.
Yes.
I
do.
So it's like in Hollywood, I'm saying Asian in Hollywood, not like in life. Yeah. It's always cool to be Asian in life.
Thanks for being honest about that. Yeah. No, that's crystal clear. We have 3 minutes left, and so these are heady questions, but short answers. Since this show is called Making It, what does making it mean to you, both personally and professionally? The second part of that question is, can you share 3 tips for success that have driven your career? So what does making it mean to you?
Making it, are you happy? Do you enjoy it? And can you eat? That's that question.
Perfect. So 3 tips for success that have driven your career or kept food on your table, literally.
Do your best on all the projects. The free ones, the cheap ones, the ones that pay a lot. Do your best on all of the projects. Allow your work to speak for itself. Most of your work will probably come from referrals. Be good to people. Be as good to people as you want them to be to you. Understand that you can create or destroy the immediate temperature of a room based on your attitude inside. And last but not least, like you have to love people. I think you kind of gotta love it. You can't, if you're gonna do this work, it's a community thing. It is a take a village thing to create art, and you gotta leave room for that.
Great tips. In our last 30 seconds, Isaiah, at this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, and with you being a dad as well, but what would you tell your younger self if you could?
Save your money. I mean, I don't know. I don't really have a lot of regrets, you know, and my desire to be honest now is a direct result from my delighting in many lies in the past. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like my use of the manipulation of lying, like that's how I learned the value of being honest. Is I did that, and that did not work out. So I'm trying honesty for a change, and I like it.
Well, it seems to be working for you.
Thanks, man.
Everybody, I encourage you to go to Isaiah's website. We're going to post it. And also, you and your wife, Stacey Orko, who is a fantastic artist and singer, 2-time Grammy nominated. She's going to be singing with you. You've got some shows coming up. So give a shout out to your website real quick. Absolutely.
LegoMyAnkles.com, June 24th. Here in San Francisco at Z Space. There's tickets still available. Also, to check out on August 14th, we will premiere David Makes Man, a new dramatic series on the OWN network, OWN.com or Oprah.com.
Everybody go check out those websites. Isaiah, thank you so much for spending the hour with us. And everybody, thank you for joining us. It's great talking to you.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Woolman.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.